So yeah, we are going to talk, on me, about bats. And as Lily's nicely named this, bats are for life, not just for Halloween. Even though everything in the shops now would suggest that they're for Halloween, because there's bat stuff everywhere. So as you can see from all these beautiful pictures, the agenda for the next 15 minutes or so is purely bats. That is what I'm massively interested in. I'm not an expert. People refer to me as an expert. Sometimes I really hate that word. It puts too much pressure on. I'm a massive enthusiast. I've probably been so now for about 3 years or so. I'm a member of a few bat groups. I do bat walks and stuff for BBOUT, and I also do bat walks and talks for the bat groups that I'm in as well as surveying, bat box checks, things for the Bat Conservation Trust as well. Not all of the pictures you see tonight are ones that I've taken. The ones of people in holding bats close, they are all specially trained and they're all working under licenses. So I don't think any of these pictures have been taken when they shouldn't have been. So they are all quite good and safe. Right. So first things first, for those that you don't know, obviously some of you guys have been chatting about bats already, which just put me very on edge because I didn't want you to start giving all my facts away. But firstly, what are bats? So bats, in case you don't know, are the only true flying mammal. They're part of the order Chiroptera, and that, if you break that down into two words, the chiro bit means hand, the ptera bit means wing. So if you look at a bat, you can see, if you look at its wing, it's kind of the same as our hand. So they've got thumbs, they've got elbows, they've got forearms, and the fingers run down with the wing membrane in between. They are closely related to humans. Close relation to humans than they are to mice. They've also got relations in regards to whales, dolphins, and that kind of stuff, because the fact that they both echolocate. They're a quarter of all UK mammal species are bats, which I think is a fascinating fact. A fifth of all worldwide mammal species are bats. So this goes to show you how many different species of bats there are. Largest group of mammals after rodents. Some people sit there and go, what about flying squirrels and all those kind of things? They don't actually fly, they actually cheat, they glide, they jump and glide. It's not the same. Bats are the only thing that truly is propelled by flight using their wings. And amazingly, I had this conversation last week on a bat walk I was on. Everyone was like, why can they live as long as they live? So their lifespan is 3.5 times longer than a similar sized animal. So if you think about, bats can be a similar size to some of the small mammals, so kind of mice, voles, that kind of stuff. Those guys will live not very long at all, a couple of years max, whereas bats can live a lot longer. Part of the reason around that is because they can go into what's called a state of torpor, so they can slow everything down, slow their breathing, slow their heart rate, and that helps them to live a lot longer. And the last little bit is just my personal opinion that they are super cute, as that pretty picture there of a natterer's bat will tell you they're super cute. So this is the bit where you guys get to type in the chat box, or you can shout out if you want to, I don't mind. So how many bat species are there in the world? Put it in the chat box. Then Lily, if you can give me the general consensus as to what the answer is, then we can go from there.
Oh yeah, I've already had a go and said 500. Marika said 300. Clara said 1400 plus. Mike's gone very specific with 423, which I love.
I love the specific ones.
Right. Yeah.
I also, whenever I ask this question, I start to feel like I'm in an auction. It's like highest bidder. It's like, yay. So Claire, I think it was Claire, she said over 1400. Claire, you're correct. Well done. So yeah, there are over 1400 bat species in the world. They're on every continent apart from the Antarctic. A lot of the bigger bats, so the fruit bats, live around the equator, where there's all the tropical areas. You do get one bat in the Arctic Circle, and that bat, because of the changes in day length there, bat will only feed at dusk and dawn because of the sun length not being very long, and depending on what time of year it is. So yeah, they are all over the world. Like I said, a fifth of mammals are bats. So that's the world. So this next one, you've already kind of had a little bit of a hint. How many bat species are there in the UK if there's 1400 in the world? This is why I didn't want you to talk about bats earlier.
We've got 17 from Caroline. Marika says 18. I'll wait and see if any other guesses come through. I do believe I know this, so I won't say any
You
guesses.
should know this. I've told you this one before. You should
Yes.
remember this one.
Still not sure. Mike said 19, Catherine said 12. So we're getting a
A
ballpark.
similar thing. So there are 18 bat species in the UK. So the reason 17 was mentioned earlier, because only 17 of those breed. So there are 18 species that come into the UK, but only 17 of those breed. There is a bat that comes into the south coast, the greater mouse-eared bat. As you can imagine, it's got mousy looking ears. That comes over to hibernate through the winter. It's been doing that regularly, and then I don't know for what reason, but during COVID, it disappeared for a year or so. I'm guessing it stayed in its isolation zone where it's supposed to be because of COVID. But then luckily last year it came back. And also this greater mouse-eared bat has now got a friend. So there's now 2 greater mouse-eared bats. So who knows, they might find each other and hopefully start to breed in this country to make sure there's going to be 18 breeding pairs. But at the minute, there's only 17 different breeding types of bat. So the guys earlier mentioned they've got 9 of those using their lane, which is amazing. Most Bedfordshire's got 12. Buckinghamshire, depends where you are, somewhere between 12 and 14 species, depending where you are in those areas. So this is a massive list of all the UK bat species. I'm not going to go through all of these because that would take me more than 15 minutes, Lily. So there's, as you can see, I've kind of listed it as small, medium-sized, and large. That's how I've done it. So you've got the 3 pips at the top. For many, many years, there was only thought to be 2 pipistrelles, the common and the soprano. And then due to DNA analysis, they realized there's an Enthusiast as well back in the 90s. Enthusiast is the rarest of the 3 pips. Common, as the name suggests, is probably one of the most common, but commons and sopranos often hang out together. There's no actual science to suggest that they're interbreeding, but if you get close to them and try and identify them, they are super hard to identify the difference between sometimes, because you're supposed to be able to identify them using their wings. There's supposed to be a Y shape with breaks in it on the wings, but you can get a bat sometimes with 1 common pipistrelle wing and 1 soprano wing. So you're like, well, what is it? It's got 1 of each wing. Then you get all the ones with the M after them are what are known as myotis. I've missed an M there, bad typing by me. Are myotis species. So they are medium-sized bats. And lots of myotis species are very, very sensitive to light. They really don't like light. And they will certainly stay away from streetlights and things if they can. Whereas the pips at the top, they don't mind light as much depending on where they are, because they're much more of an urban bat. You've got your 2 long-eared bats, brown long-ears being more common than grey long-ears. Barbicel, which is one of the easier ones to identify. It's very black, very dark, and its ears meet over the middle. Everyone describes it as a bat that only its mother could love, because they're not very pretty. I think they're quite cute. They've got a bit of a pug dog kind of face. It's all wrinkled up and got these big ears that meet in the middle. But like I say, much darker in fur color. You've got your 2 horseshoe bats, which sound amazing on bat detectors, and then the 3 at the bottom are the bigger bats, the noctule being the biggest, then the Ceratine and the Leisler. This picture here on the bottom corner, that is a noctule. Noctule's my favorite. Noctule will be the tattoo I've got on my arm as well. So yeah. Right. So little and large bats. So in the UK, the smallest bat is the common pipistrelle, and the biggest bat is a noctule. So common pipistrelle is weighs about 5 grams, so it's about the size of your thumb. And if you get it to nicely fold its wings in for you, which I'm sure it won't do, you can fit it into a matchbox. That's how small a common pipistrelle can be. Great kind of animal to have at your barbecues, because they can eat up to 3,000 insects a night. For something that weighs only 5 grams, to eat 3,000 insects is quite impressive. My record of eating food is 12 bourbon biscuits in 1 sitting, not 3,000 insects. So yeah, they are really, really cute, as you can see there, really quite diddy. And because of their size, if you can put your finger, the tip of your finger, into a hole, then you will be able to see that is where a bat can go into. A pipistrelle will fit in the hole if your end of your finger fits into it. So they, as well as being the common pipistrelle, they are also known as the bandit pipistrelle, because if you probably can't see it particularly, it's quite hard to see on that picture. The eyes and the ears and the face are a little bit darker than a soprano, so it's meant to look like they've got a mask going across their face, like the highwayman would have. It's like a bandit across their face. So that is your smallest bat in this country. On the other side is the noctule, which is the biggest. So noctules have got a wingspan of up to about 40 centimeters, something like that. Their body shape is about the size of a pear. They can fit into the palm of your hand. So even though it's the biggest bat in the UK, it's still pretty small. They can weigh about 30 to 40 grams, depending on if they've been feeding well or not. And they come out quite early at night time, and you will see them flying around. They will fly really high up in the sky. They'll often get confused for swifts in the summer because they'll fly really high up in the sky and then they'll drop down and feed. So they can drop down up to 50 kilometers an hour. They'll fly, they'll drop, grab some food and go back up again. They are really, really high flyers, whereas the pipistrelles, you will hopefully see those in and about urban areas, so gardens, by rivers, by canals, in woodlands. They're pretty much all over the place. Pipistrelles will fly just above your head. Quite inquisitive things, certainly on bat walks. I don't know if you guys noticed when you've last done bat walks that they're all over the place, flying above your head, having a little look to see what you're doing, and seeing if there's any insects just above you. Because one thing I forgot to mention is all the bat species in the UK are insectivores. So they all eat insects, which is why it's great to have them at barbecues. So yeah, so those are the smallest and the biggest in the UK. In the world, the smallest bat is a bumblebee bat. Which weighs as little as 2 grams, which is the same weight as 2 Skittles, little rainbow coloured sweets. It weighs as small as that, as little as that. And they are called bumblebee bats because they are about the size of a queen bumblebee, which in this country would be a buff-tailed queen being the biggest. She is about 2 inches in length. So that's kind of how small they are. Whereas the biggest bat that you can get in the world is one of the flying foxes. I always forget its name. Let me 2 seconds. There it is, a golden crown flying fox, which has a wingspan of up to 2 meters, so 6 foot. We all know 2 meters and 6 foot, don't we, from COVID, 2 meters away, that kind of stuff. And that can weigh about 1.5 kilos, but that is one of the fruit bats. So they're all on the equator and very much bigger than the bats that we get in the UK. Right. So why are bats important? Other than the fact that they're super cute, I had this question posed to me the other week at a bat walk by a 9-year-old. He asked me, can you please tell me the ecological importance of bats and why we need to record them? I was like, wow, that's an impressive question from a 9-year-old. So these are the reasons why, and these little pictures are supposed to help. But I can't see one of my pictures now, but I can just see the bottom of it, which is fine. So they are what's known as an indicator species. So bats give people, scientists, citizen science, all that kind of stuff, an idea of what's going on in the world with regards to ecosystems. So if the bats are doing okay, then it's an indicator that the species below them are doing okay as well. So the insects are doing okay. If the insects are doing okay, it means the plants are doing okay. If the plants are doing okay, we're on to a winner, right? If the bats aren't doing okay, that shows you something's wrong. So they are massive indicator species. They're also really good at pest control. Like I said to you earlier, they'll come out and eat 3,000 midges in one night. So if you've got loads of pipistrelles around, you're going to have much less midges. But equally, that works for farmers and things. So they help to do pest control for farmers in other countries. They help to control the pests on all their crops and that kind of stuff, which is really, really good to help with the crop continuation without having to use anything like pesticides and that kind of stuff. If you've got the natural predators there, it saves you having to use artificial pesticides and things. The fruit bats especially are really good at seed dispersal and reforesting. I love that word, reforesters. So they obviously eat fruits, and in eating those, they will eat the seeds and then they'll fly off somewhere else, do their business where they are, and that will then release those seeds to a different area. So they're not dropping the seeds right next to the original plant. So there's no competition there. So they will move away and they can quite literally create new forests in various places around their habitat, which is amazing. And the fruit bats, again, are really, really good at pollinating. Lots of things are pollinated by fruit bats. Over 500 plants are pollinated by bats. Anything from mangoes, bananas, guava. And as the last picture on the far right-hand side shows you tequila. So one bat, in particular, I can't remember its name, but there's only one bat in the world that actually pollinates the tequila plant, the agave, and that is how you get your tequila. Not that I drink tequila, it's far too strong for me, and you only have to do it with a shot with with lime and salt. That's how you do it, isn't it? But not that I would know what that is because I don't drink tequila. So this goes to show you, because people are like, oh, why are they important? Lots of reasons why they're important. If you didn't have them, you wouldn't have some of your nice citrusy and summer fruits. So what are threats to bats? So the biggest threat to bat is cats. That isn't my cat, before you wonder. That is just a stock photo of a cat. I haven't got a cat. Lily's got a cat, but I haven't. So cats are the biggest threat to bats. 80% of bat injuries are caused by cats. Unfortunately, what happens is cats find out where they're roosting and then will attack them, if you like, upon entry or leaving or going back to their roost. They can maul them, they can tear wings, that kind of stuff. So a bat's wings will heal within reason. It's the same as skin, so it will heal. If they get holes in their wings, it will heal, but obviously there comes a point where there's too much of damage and they can't actually heal. So yeah, biggest problem is cats, which I think is really funny because it rhymes with bats, but hey, they don't get on. Habitat loss being a second. The habitat loss is a massive threat to everything, not just bats, as you can imagine. It's a threat to insects, mammals, you name it. Anything losing its habitat is not having a great time. For bats, that mainly comes down to fragmentation, things being put in the way of where they used to go. This is what you guys mentioned about them using your lane as a corridor. Bats especially like to fly along straight lines. They like edges and lines and hedgerows and that kind of stuff. So if that starts to get interrupted by new developments, new buildings, new industry, that is a massive problem for them, because they will not be able to use it as landmarks and won't know where to go to feed and that kind of stuff. Like I mentioned to you earlier, pesticides. Pesticides kill the bugs. That means they've got nothing to eat. It's quite as simple as that. Pesticides aren't exclusive. They will kill all the bugs around. It's not going to specifically pick on the crop that that you want to use to kill the bugs off. So if you can't use them, if you don't use them, even better. Building and development work, again, links to the habitat loss, and also a lot of increase in lighting. Lots of new estates, I've noticed nowadays, like to light up like a Christmas tree. There's lighting everywhere, which, like I said to you, a lot of the urban bats, so the pipistrelles, are changing what they do and kind of their ability to be in the light. But it doesn't happen to all the bats. Myotis species, like I said, really don't like it. And roads, again, same reason as the habitat loss. If you put a road over where a bat's been flying for the last 5 years, it's going to end up potentially getting hit by cars that drive down that road. Couple more things that also threats: wind farms. Wind farms do something horrible to bats and make it that they can't breathe, because it changes all the air pressure and it causes really horrible things to happen to bats. I did a few surveys over at there's an RSPB reserve at Sandy, and they had a small decline in their bats there since they put a wind turbine up, but they're trying to figure out other ways of bringing that back. White nose syndrome is something that happens to them during hibernation. It's a fungus that they can get infected with. It's not a major problem in the UK. It's more of an America thing at the moment, but bat groups are keeping an eye on that. And the last one, which I really, really hate, and it's horrible to see, is, you know, the paper, sticky paper for flies that back in the day you'd hang it on your ceiling and it'd catch all the flies in your living room or kitchen. Bats can get stuck on that, and it's really, really hard to clean off. Really, really hard. So that's all the doom and gloom about bats, but how can you help? So easiest way with the cats is to keep cats in, and I'm not asking to keep them in all the time, because I know lots of cats like to go out and do their own thing because they're independent things. If you can keep your cat in at dusk and dawn, that'd be really, really good for the bats. The second the bats are away from their roost, they're quite safe. They're too high up for cats to get, and they're not going to get any problems. Same when they come back to their roost as well. Plant things in your garden for nighttime pollinators, so things that are going to attract moths and insects at nighttime, things like jasmine, honeysuckle, that kind of stuff. If you can plant those, then obviously you're going to increase the biodiversity of the invertebrates, which is going to increase the amount of bats you get in the area and make it easier for them to find food. Water, everything needs water. I always talk about water in whatever talk I'm doing, because it's vital to everybody. If you can put water out for insects and bats, that'd be great. If you can put anything a little bit higher for bats, so they haven't got to come really low down to get a drink, that means that there won't be as much risk from them being predated. They will use your pond if you've got a pond. Ponds are a great way, but you can also just put a dish of water a little bit higher up somewhere in your garden. That'd be great. Putting up a bat box. Bat boxes are great. You can get all different types. The ones that you see in that picture there are ones that are kind of a concrete and sawdust mix, which you can't really see in, but if you've got a license to check them, then you're allowed to. they've got two exits. There's an entrance. You see the front there, there's an entrance there, and there's also an entrance at the back. So the bats can go up the back of the bat box. But you can make them yourself. The Bat Conservation Trust have got loads of information about various bat boxes. You can make one yourself out of wood. You could, before it closed down, buy one for £3 from Wilko's. I could not find one for love nor money. I went in 3 different Wilko's and didn't find any bat boxes. So you can do that. That's a great thing to do. People often ask me where to put them. It doesn't overly matter, because bats will change their location of roost depending on what the weather's doing. So if it's really hot, they'll go in a cooler one. If it's really cold, they'll obviously do the opposite. And as well as joining the bat group, so there's local bat groups all over. There's one in Oxfordshire, there's one in North Bucks, there's one in South Bucks and Berkshire, and there's one in North Hants as well, and Bedfordshire. So every county or so has got a bat group. You can join one of those and see what they're up to. They do bat box checks, they do walks, they do talks, they do surveys and various things. But the overarching charity for bats in the UK is the Bat Conservation Trust. They will be your go-to place if you want any information about bats. You can join, you can be a member, but there's lots of stuff on there that's free as well. They also often get people, members of the public, to come and do surveys and things for them. You can do various surveys throughout the summer, which is all really important data for them to collect. And there's a link there, which I don't know if Lily sends out these slides and things afterwards or anything. She can do if I send them to her. And some different books at the bottom in case you're interested in bats and want to read a bit more about them. There are so many bat books out there. These are 3 that I've got that are actually quite good. The bottom one is a bit like the Bat Bible, if you like, and people use that a lot of the time to make reference to various different species and how to identify them. And hopefully I've not gone super over time. And if anyone's got any questions about bats, that was a little whistle-stop tour about bats. And kind of, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask me. And I like the fact that this bat at the end looks like it's smiling. That's Elisla's bat. It's smiling at you to say thank you for your time for listening to all the information about bats.